The Lord is risen, alleluia. All right, that was decent. But the response properly is, he is risen indeed, alleluia. All right, let's try that one more time. The Lord is risen, alleluia. Yeah. A special happy Easter to everyone who's homebound, watching from home. Guys, rising from the dead is not a thing. It's not a thing that people do. It doesn't happen. I mean, dead in the tomb, 3 days. Folks, today is a day of tremendous joy, and the mystery of the Easter is that there is a joy that is only accessible through suffering. I was celebrating here Good Friday, my first Good Friday at the cathedral. Beautiful, just tremendous, the intensity of going through the entire narrative of the Lord's passion and suffering and death, veneration of the cross, which, as we're watching everyone come down the aisle, venerating Jesus on the cross, like everyone's going through their own struggle. We've all been through it. And there are things that you wonder to yourself, like, how are we going to get through this? How do you get back? After the Good Friday service, I was having Pete's Fish and Chips with my oldest sister and her family and a couple guests. After the long fast, there's nothing like fried fish. There's also nothing like the pain after fried fish that you consumed on an empty... I did regret that. But my sister told me this story of as she's getting all of her kids ready to go to the Good Friday service at her parish, she's carrying the little baby in her arms and she's doing a little pat on the butt. And she's coming down the stairs, and the other older boys look up at her on the stairs and like, "Mom, stop! She's pooping!" And it turned out that there was an abundance of fluid overflowing out of her diaper, all over her dress and onto the staircase. And she's telling me this story, and it's like, I regret hugging you earlier. There are things that you wonder to yourself, how are we going to overcome this? How are we going to get back on track? And somehow my sister cleaned up herself and her baby. I mean, I pray to God that she changed clothes. She said she cleaned up. So, and then they got to the Good Friday service, amazing. Probably a couple minutes late. Folks, can you ponder with me just a moment? Imagine Mary. 9 months of a miraculous pregnancy. She knows she hasn't been with a man, and yet 9 months, she knows that this baby growing in her is a pure miracle. And then she has the joy of birth, giving birth to her baby boy in Bethlehem. And now, mothers, I've never had this experience. I'm not a mother. But they say that kind of joy, especially when, it can be the kind of joy that causes postpartum amnesia, where you forget the immense pain of labor that you just went through a second ago. What kind of immense... So imagine Mary, it's not just any birth, it's a miraculous birth of a miraculous baby. What joy. And then she goes through Good Friday, watching her baby boy get lacerated, put to death, humiliated, and buried. It's not in the gospel, but Jesus would have appeared to Mary one-on-one. Imagine the immense, a whole different explosion of joy mixed with pain that Mary had at seeing her boy risen from the dead, alive in the flesh. I know for a fact that Jesus appeared to Mary, one, because many have written about it, but also because the scriptures in the gospel, it says that when Jesus appears to the disciples on the road to Emmaus, They come running back to Jerusalem to the other apostles. They tell them, we saw the risen Lord. And they say, amazing, he appeared to Peter too. Implying, it's not recorded anywhere else, but it's implied directly, explicitly, that Jesus appeared one-on-one to Peter. Now, join me again for another little contemplation. Imagine Peter, the most passionate one who loved Jesus so much that he said, I will go to the ends of the earth and I will die for you. That Peter who loved Jesus so much, and then out of sheer terror, ran away when he was arrested, who out of intense fear denied, betrayed his Lord, not once, but 3 times. Luke tells us in his gospel that when Peter hears the cock crow, and he's immediately aware, just as Jesus said, I betrayed him. Luke records that Peter looks up at that moment and catches eyes with Jesus. Jesus looks at him, and what kind of a look did he have? It caused Peter to weep bitterly, St. Luke says. Obviously a look of love, because he didn't despair. But when Jesus appeared to him one-on-one, can you imagine? Jesus at a distance, and Peter thinking, no, don't, not me. Don't come to me. I can't believe you're alive, but no, why? And Jesus comes closer, shows him his wounds. Now go and encourage, strengthen your brothers, like I asked you to. Folks, there is a unique kind of joy that only comes through pain. And it's a hard truth, it's a hard love, it's a hard mercy. But it's something we know from experience, and we have to remember today. There's nothing wrong. In fact, it's necessary to rejoice even when there's still grief. You and all of us, we've all been through intense pain. Heck, at least all of us have been through 2020 together, and 2021 and 2022. So, guys, it's in the suffering. It's through the suffering that Jesus wants to bring about something new life. A joy that's even greater than what could be without the evil that preceded it. That's the bold proclamation of Easter. Think of, in The Lord of the Rings, I don't think this is captured in the movies, but in the book, having gone through the crazy agony and suffering that it took to destroy that ring of power, Samwise Gamgee is still in pain, and the vivid memory of fire and flame is still alive in him, glowing. But he's recovering, and at one moment he wakes up from sleep, and Gandalf comes in the room, and Samwise just says, out of this place of tremendous joy with pain, he says, is it possible that everything sad will come untrue? What's happened in the world? That joy, my friends, is not just the joy of resurrection, which is immense joy just to consider the miracle of Jesus' resurrection in the flesh. But it's not only just the joy of what is to come, the eschatological end of time when we will experience the glory of Jesus, accepting him and joining him in heaven. There is a joy here and now through our suffering. And it is our joy to profess that joy. There can still be grief, and there's clearly no denial of the evil when you see the open wounds of Christ, but they are glorified. And Jesus has conquered, because everything he went through, it wasn't the nails that kept him on the cross, it was his love for us. And he knew exactly what he was doing. The Lord is risen, alleluia.